Kingdom Hearts. If one is taking a look at this franchise on paper, it makes absolutely no sense. At the time of the first game's release, nobody could have imagined a collaboration between Final Fantasy and Disney was possible, yet Square was able to turn it into one of the most recognizable brands in gaming today. Although the series has had over 13 entries across many different gaming platforms, it took 13 years after the release of Kingdom Hearts 2 before we finally got the long-awaited Kingdom Hearts 3. All three mainline titles follow a very similar formula. You travel to various Disney worlds where upon arrival, Sora, Donald, and Goofy battle Heartless and participate in the events of that particular world. In this respect, Kingdom Hearts 3 has not deviated far from the original two titles. In fact, it has proven that this tried and true formula works even in today's gaming climate. However, the plots of these games have earned somewhat of a reputation over the many years and spin-off games of being quite confusing and convoluted. While it may be numbered 3, more than the two previous main games in the franchise need to be played in order to completely understand the story of Kingdom Hearts 3. This is one of the aspects that make this game so interesting to analyze. The game is extremely fun and well made, yet at the same time there are a few glaring issues that will be puzzling and at times downright frustrating for fans of the franchise. The 13-year wait built up the hype and anticipation to levels that I can honestly say I have not seen in the gaming world before. The unavoidable side effect of this hype is that expectation levels also rise proportionally. While the high expectations for Kingdom Hearts 3 were met at times, at others it felt like 13 years wasn't enough time for them to release the final product they desired. I previously mentioned that the series has garnered a reputation for being convoluted and confusing. Having played most of the games to completion, I actually find that the story, while complicated and intricate, is not too terribly confusing as you get to the start of Kingdom Hearts 3. However, if one has only played half of the games in the franchise, let's say, many of the concepts and characters in Kingdom Hearts 3 may be completely unknown or disorienting. This is why I cannot recommend this game as an entry point to the franchise. The game's half-hearted attempts to make the events and concepts established in previous games clear and concise just don't cut it. In essence, the job of Kingdom Hearts 3 is not to bring newcomers up to speed, but to tie together and wrap up converging plots from the other 12 games of the series. The Disney worlds throughout Kingdom Hearts 3 all host their own independent story, which is par for the course. Kingdom Hearts 3 improves on this formula by having the overarching plot of the game more closely tied in with these worlds. This time around we get to see the villains interact with characters in the different worlds, and each locale does a great job of tackling one of the themes related to the main Kingdom Hearts story. We get to see great moments like these where Woody tells off young Xehanort and explains to him what the true meaning of friendship is. One area where the game falters, though, is the lack of consistency in storytelling from world to world. Some worlds are a direct retelling of the original Disney story, and while some do a great job of this, others, like the Caribbean, jump to the third movie of the series and really don't make any sense at all unless you've seen the original film. Some other new worlds told stories that were unrelated to the movie plot, and they took place after the movie. By itself, this wouldn't be a bad thing, but this led to the game feeling like some worlds had more effort put into them than others, and it didn't quite feel balanced. There is a similar disparity between the gameplay and exploration in the different worlds, and I'll discuss that in the gameplay portion of this review. For the most part, though, it was interesting to see the new and old Disney worlds play out while acknowledging the greater story of Kingdom Hearts. It was a shame that with the impending conclusion of the Xehanort trilogy, some of these Disney worlds felt like a chore to complete. I found myself at many times trying to rush through them to get to the next juicy details of the main storyline. One of the more puzzling aspects of this game is the lack of Final Fantasy characters. Kingdom Hearts was never focused on them, but they've always been there and I've always enjoyed them. Apart from the Moogles and other small references like Verum Rex, which is alluding to Final Fantasy Versus 13, there really isn't much. And at the time of recording this video, there's no DLC available for Kingdom Hearts 3, but rumor has it Final Fantasy characters and maybe even Final Fantasy worlds may be implemented in future DLC. The Kingdom Hearts elements of this game are intriguing and as complex as ever. For fans of the franchise that have invested a lot of time into fully understanding what is going on, this game is a treat. There are plenty of lengthy cutscenes in between the Disney World visits. Some involve Organization 13 and others King Mickey and Riku and their journey. Most of these cutscenes all have a weight to them and they really feel important in the context of this game franchise as a whole. The amount of small callbacks or references that are brought up is truly astounding. Being the end of the Xehanort saga, there were plenty of epic moments throughout that were full of excitement. The game brought a smile to my face or a tear to my eye on multiple occasions just from emotional moments that arose in the story from time to time. If you are invested in this franchise, there are too many great moments to pass up on. Some of my favorite moments in the entire Kingdom Hearts franchise come during this game, during the labyrinth cutscenes and the battles at the end of the game. When some of the character interactions you never thought you would see happen, do happen, all the years of waiting for this game seem worth it. There are a few moments here and there that really just don't make sense towards the end, and they seem like they were kind of just put in the game to sequel bait, and I will touch on that in the conclusion of this review. If there is one complaint I had about the story of this game is that it felt like it was 80% Disney and 20% Kingdom Hearts. Looking back at the older games in this series, this is the status quo, so why does it bother me so much in this game? I think it has to do with how many different storylines that needed to be wrapped up. I came into this game looking for closure and finality, and I felt like the game would have been better served going 50-50 with its time to achieve that goal. It ended up at the end of the game feeling extremely rushed to wrap up all of the storylines. I would have loved to get even more Kingdom Hearts focused story moments throughout the game. This is a little nitpicky, however, as the amount of story we got is quite substantial. The gameplay of Kingdom Hearts 3 is all about options. The amount of ways to dispose of your enemies is a huge leap forward from any other Kingdom Hearts game. I like to describe the combat of this game as a mix between Kingdom Hearts 2, Dream Drop Distance, and Birth by Sleep. Of course, you have your Keyblade strikes and magic, which are your most basic tools at your disposal. Magic in this game, however, is particularly effective, especially when compared to that of previous Kingdom Hearts games. Other tools that you have are your flow motion attacks, making a return from Dream Drop Distance. You can swing on poles, jump off walls, or grind on rails to trigger the flow motion state, and then you can perform extra powerful attacks. Luckily, they have toned down flow motion attacks in Kingdom Hearts 3 as they were so effective in Dream Drop Distance that it made the game a breeze. Making a return from Birth by Sleep are form changes, and these are triggered by chaining multiple attacks together. Unlike Birth by Sleep, however, when you activate a form change, your Keyblade turns into a completely different weapon. Some of my favorite Keyblade form changes were the Mirage Staff as well as the Highwind Spear/Storm Flag. The combat style and magic style for each weapon is unique and really adds a lot of variety to the game. On top of that, the ability to equip up to 3 Keyblades at a time and switch between them freely really allows you to switch up the way you play on the fly. My go-to throughout this game was to rush into the battle with a blitz of magic using a magic-based Keyblade, and then I would switch to a Keyblade that specialized in physical damage while my MP recharged. Other combat options consist of team attacks with Donald, Goofy, or the allies from the world you're visiting at the time, and there's also summons as usual. In this game they are dubbed links. They work as they always have. They call in an ally from a different world to help you deal damage. This is the one tool in the game that I didn't find very effective. I just thought there was better ways to spend your magic points. Lastly, there are attractions, and these are attacks where the team jumps on Disney World rides like the Mad Teacups, a carousel, or the pirate ship, and they use it to deal damage to the enemies. Both the attractions and the team attacks have beautiful animations, but at the same time, sometimes they can be hard to control, and the camera can become a little bit awkward. With all the tools at your disposal, combat is fluid, fun, and easily the best part about this game. Most aspects of the combat feel buttery smooth, and the style that oozes out of every battle did not get old once throughout my 28-hour playthrough of the game. So much so that I found myself seeking out battles at many points in my playthrough. The combat is just that good. The only negative that comes with so many options in combat is that the game can tend to be easy at times. I watched my younger brother play through the game on standard mode and it truly was a breeze. I, however, played on proud mode, so this easy difficulty was cancelled out for the most part. The enemies hit a lot harder and MP management and blocking were essential in several boss fights. If you consider yourself a capable gamer, proud mode is definitely the sweet spot difficulty wise in Kingdom Hearts 3, and it ensures that you use all the tools at your disposal. Exploring the different worlds in Kingdom Hearts 3 was quite different than that of other games in the franchise. It's hard to put a finger on what exactly it is, but something about this game is definitely different. The Disney and non-Disney worlds in Kingdom Hearts have never been that explorable or open world per se. Still, most of the Kingdom Hearts 3 worlds feel even more linear and small than the games of old. It could be attributed to the fact that in previous games there was loading screens in between different small portions of the world. These loading screens don't really exist in Kingdom Hearts 3 for the most part, since the same technical limitations don't exist today that did in 2005. I truly believe this lack of loading screen does lead to the worlds feeling a little bit more linear and like hallways, and there's really no exploration encouraged at all. Recently, Square Enix has stated that Disney Pixar was particularly protective of the frozen and tangled worlds. They were picky with how these worlds were portrayed and brought to life during the development process, and this really could have contributed to this feeling of linearity at these locales. However, other worlds like San Francisco and especially the Caribbean are quite open-ended and allow for a lot of exploration and treasure hunting. In the Caribbean, you actually get your own pirate ship to explore, and you get to go set out on the ocean and go look at different islands and find some pretty good treasure. None of the worlds truly feel the same. That is to say, there really isn't a pattern of events that happen in each world like there was in previous titles. Each world has a unique feel and vibe to it. Some call this inconsistency, but I believe it to be variety, and it keeps every world as fresh and fun as possible. Despite the game being fairly linear, navigating the map at times is finicky and at others it's downright frustrating. This is another one of those glaring flaws that really just doesn't make any sense. You can't open a map for an area in this game, you just get a mini-map that is very unclear and doesn't do a good job of conveying elevation. I can't count how many times during my playthrough I was wishing I could look at the map and make it bigger so I could find out where some treasure could possibly be hidden, or to get a better bearing on where I was at, and in 2019 this is just inexcusable game design. The Gummy Ship takes a very different approach this time around. The worlds all sit in a little galaxy, let's call it, and it serves as an open world. You can freely take the ship wherever you want, enemies and bosses fly around freely, and if you get close to one, a battle will then initiate. A lot of the boss battles do feel like bullet sponges, however, which sucks some of the fun out of it. And while overall the Gummy experience is a lot better and I really appreciate the effort it took to improve it, I've never really found much enjoyment out of the Gummy portions of the game, so thankfully you can usually just fly to the next world you want to visit. A few other things that I think are worth mentioning are the synthesis, cooking, and the phone system. And synthesis works as it does in all of the older Kingdom Hearts games. The Moogles assist you and help you craft items, weapons, and equipment to help strengthen your party. Cooking happens with Remy from Ratatouille, and he helps Sora cook up food which gives you temporary status boosts. The camera is one of the funniest implementations into this game. Its primary function is to take picture of Mickey Mouse emblems scattered throughout the worlds to unlock a secret ending. However, it can be used to take pictures or selfies of anything, and the number of hilarious memes on the internet that have been birthed from this feature is truly a blessing. KH3 has a very pleasing art style and its graphics are sure to stand the test of time. The character models do take a little bit of time to get used to, as they are pretty different from the first two games, especially in the characters' eyes, but when you do get used to the new models, the update is totally worth it. This game doesn't attempt to achieve photorealism and it really benefits from that. When the game does want to show off, however, you truly see how capable the artists are behind this game. I mean, look at this scene from Pirates of the Caribbean. The level of detail is just fantastic. All the Disney characters and worlds of this game have been faithfully recreated. Square has discussed with many gaming outlets at length about their relationship with Disney. Disney in fact sent Square many models for characters so that they could be as accurate as possible. Disney also oversaw and had to approve all of the worlds at different steps of the creative process. Obviously, this attention to detail has led to incredible results. Many of Pixar's worlds and characters look indistinguishable from their movie counterparts. Couple this with the fact that some of the worlds have unique outfits for Sora, Donald, and Goofy that blend them in perfectly, and the game feels like you are living inside of a Disney movie. I can only imagine the challenges that would arise trying to blend your own unique game art with that of an entertainment titan like Disney, but this game does an immaculate job at just that. Kingdom Hearts has music unlike any other game franchise. Rarely can a game have music that evokes emotion and nostalgia on this level. Sweeping emotional music, catchy battle tunes, epic boss tracks, or somber character themes, Kingdom Hearts 3 has them all. The legendary Yoko Shimomura continues to outdo herself with this franchise. There is so much variety to this great soundtrack, and every poignant story moment has the perfect music to go along with it. The music truly enhances the experience of this game, and it wouldn't be the same without it. Many older songs from the series have been updated and reorchestrated, making them even more beautiful than they were in the original games. And the original tracks for this game are all brilliant. Similar to the art of the game, the ability to take music from Disney worlds and put a unique flair on it and blend it with the Kingdom Hearts style is uncanny. In addition, the opening and ending theme by Utada Hikaru are incredible. Even after all of these years, she still has not lost her angelic voice. This game's soundtrack is the complete package, and you will be hard-pressed to find one better in all of video games. Before I wrap up this review, I want to discuss a few more of the puzzling decisions made by Square in the development of this game that a lot of fans are kind of frustrated over. Like we talked before, playing the earlier games in the franchise is kind of a necessity to understand Kingdom Hearts 3 in its entirety. One of the games I didn't play though was Kingdom Hearts Union Cross, and that is the mobile game. And there's actually quite a few story moments near the end of Kingdom Hearts 3, including the ending, that were tied to Union Cross. It frustrates me to no end that Square would put so much pertinent information in a mobile game. It feels like a cheap way to force players to play that game, which is loaded with microtransactions. On top of that, I personally feel like the story elements that were introduced in Union Cross are what made the late game feel so rushed. The ending of the game was not satisfying to a large number of fans, and a lot of them point to Union Cross as the main culprit for these problems. I personally tend to agree with them, and think that the mobile game should be kept in its own separate little bubble. It's fine to have the game enhance the lore of Kingdom Hearts and have background points, but when you put major plot points and details and they're coming from a mobile game, I think that crosses the line. Another interesting fact that should be noted is that all of the Kingdom Hearts assets had to be recreated in the Unreal Engine. This took a lot of time away from developers to be able to do other tasks, and many blamed it for some of the weird omissions from this game. It should be interesting to see how the next game in the franchise takes advantage of already having these assets created. And one of the last weird decisions, I think, was to sequel bait the ending of Kingdom Hearts 3 very hard. I have yet to find one person online or in real life that was really satisfied with the conclusion of Kingdom Hearts 3, and it was kind of a cheap sequel bait to keep it plain and simple. After waiting 13 years for this game, people are expecting some sort of finality. Tetsuya Nomura could not resist though, and the ending of the game clearly leads into a sequel of some sort. To me, you don't really need the sequel bait with a cliffhanger to release a sequel later on, especially since the game was built to be the end of the Xehanort saga. The cliffhanger just felt a little bit bogus to me. Nevertheless, most people agree Kingdom Hearts 3 is a great game and a mostly positive experience. It just at many times felt like the franchise took 3 or 4 steps forward and 1 step back. Despite all this, Kingdom Hearts 3 after 13 years was able to overcome all of this to deliver a fantastic single-player experience that can't be found in many other places. The conclusion to the Xehanort saga delivers so many satisfying moments that are sure to please hardcore fans of the franchise. The fluid gameplay is not only wonderful to play, but is pleasing to just sit back and behold. This is enhanced by some of the best music and artistic style in gaming. If you are a longtime fan of the IP, Kingdom Hearts 3 was worth the wait.